Okay.
I'm using stories there.
I
I've my video's off because I'm having issues with my internet. So I'll just keep it off for now.
It's okay. We don't, we're aware of the fact that your voice is not an AI generated character.
Okay, so just let me know when we're ready.
Be sure to mute the YouTube.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I call the September Guam Board of Accountancy Board Meeting to order. Present, all board members are present, participating through Zoom. Our board members, Taling Taitano and Francis Baba. And then in person present are board members, John Phillips, Jenny Chu, and myself, and Executive Director Dave Sanford. So before we begin, just to reconfirm that the meeting has been properly noticed, and I think in the materials,
12th and 17th.
12th and 17th, and properly posted, so we can proceed. First item would be the approval of last month's meetings in August, and it's attached in our materials.
Move to approve, subject to correction.
Good for me.
Second,
Second, okay, no corrections, minutes to last month's meeting are approved. On to old business, Dave, you wanna go talk about the fund?
Yeah, for the Guam Accountancy Endowment Fund, balance at, August 30th was, the 5.293786, 5.3 billion basically. And, we were showing a year-to-date, performance of 9.9%. So of course, that's better than the 6% target rate we have, which is good. We did see a jump, a little bit of a jump in the ending market value to 5.324 million. So with that, we're up another 30-something thousand just in the 17 days. In the beginning of September. So, but then there's the 12,000 fees in this quarter. So we've seen 37,000 fees year to date, and we'll probably see another 12 or 13,000 for the last quarter, calendar quarter. So, but we're still gonna, presuming the market stays at least close to where it is now, it doesn't fall like 3 or 4%. We'll still stay over a $5 million balance by the end of this calendar year, I think, even after the fees, the 50,000 in fees. And what we're paying for the visiting professor for this year. And again, we still don't have any realized losses. We only have realized gains.
And we did, given the balance of the fund, I mean, we basically earned enough to pay for the visiting professor, so it doesn't, almost like it doesn't cost us a thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of the target that we've always been after, so we can get to the 5 million and earning 6% a year. We're doing pretty good, so that gives us enough to basically fund a good portion of the visiting professor program. So that's where we are with that.
Again, what are the approximate annual?
Well, our budget, the originally conceived budget was to be about a max of like 200,000 a year.
Yeah.
As we figure if we got, even if we didn't get somebody for the whole year, if we get them for a semester, between expenses and salary and stipend and everything else, it's gonna be, and between 2 semesters in the summer program where we may get 1 or 2 people to come during the summer for 6 or 8 weeks, we figured 100,000 per semester. And then there should be enough left over in there. If you had 1 person in 1 semester and 1 person in the other,
Yeah,
then you'd still have a little left over that would have somebody, kind of for the summer program if necessary, so. But the other side of the original concept was that we should be focusing on bringing in people that can fill the gaps, in what's needed in the curriculum.
right,
Because in the past, the students would say, gee, I need this course to graduate, I gotta wait a year for somebody to teach it. That kind of thing, so.
so if we achieve our target return of 6%, that's enough to cover the 200,000. All we really need is 4%
Yeah,
to cover the two.
yeah, really, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, we should, if we can achieve, if we can just achieve I guess the projection originally when we started, which was 2015, I guess, was if we
Yeah.
could achieve an overall 6% performance rate on a 20-year period, we should be able to essentially have maintained the fund itself intact,
Yeah,
and just paid all the program expenses out of the earnings
yeah,
over the 20-year period. So,
and we're still planning on making contributions to the,
as long as we have
That's
excess
okay.
revenues, I mean, that's the name of the game from my perspective, is as
Yeah.
long as the board has excess revenues, we should put it in the endowment fund. Because it's buying the future of the accounting in Guam,
yeah,
especially relative to the UOG and the expenses and things.
I think we gotta use it.
Right. But, there's always, some, other perspective that says, well, you got $5 million, we should use it for this or that or the other. And, we've so far I've never been inclined to do that. I mean, we need some furniture over here. Can you pay this debt service on this building? Can you send these people to this thing, or, that kind of stuff. And from the get-go, that's not what it was intended for. And so far, I've been reasonably successful in making sure that we don't use it for things like that. And now that we're getting to the point where we actually have a fund, I don't want to see it depleted for things like that relative to putting off our continuing visiting professor program. I also would like to say that I think now that we have a new dean of the School of Business and Public Administration, Dr. Jones has taken a good interest in making sure this program works. And, I think it's getting to the point where it's gonna have a life of its own ultimately, and it'll continue. So, and that's the good thing. Like what we've done with Dr. Conrad, he wasn't sure he wanted to come here and stay here, so, but we wanted to at least have him. So we had him on the visiting professor program, and then he has decided he likes Guam, so he will stay. And he's looking for the permanent position. It's much better to have him as a visiting professor initially, so we don't pay moving costs, all kinds of other things, just bring him here, pay him basic expenses, and if he decides to stay, great, if not, he goes back, but we haven't spent the money it would take to move him here and then decide he doesn't wanna be here and move him back, that kind of.
I forgot, does he have kids, family?
I'm pretty sure he does, but I think his family's,
Or he,
in the States.
the States, right, okay.
Grown, I think all his kids are grown.
Right, yeah.
what is his status now? Is he still considered a visiting professor, or is he
He's
now
still-
full-time faculty?
He's on the visiting professor through the end of this term, I think, that he's in,
Yeah.
because he agreed to 2 semesters.
Okay,
But, Dr. Jones, was saying that, he's decided he wants to stay. And that, they have, I guess they've figured out, how to slot him into a full-time professorship position.
That's a new, I didn't know. Oh, this is great.
Yeah, so he wants to stay, so he's gonna stay permanently, so.
And he's interested in tenure, right? So-
Yeah, he said at first, at first, he said, well, it doesn't really matter, to him, because he's already retired from one other place, but yeah, he's fine with the tenured position, so. So he'll stick around, I guess, and that's a good thing, the kids seem to like him. I don't know, did the, advisory council have any meetings?
They did, I wasn't here, let me find out what they.
Update on that or not?
I mean, so I had one of my, other partners go. And the only thing I could gather that was significant, I'll find out a lot more, was changing the name of the school from School of Business back to a college, back to
College of
CBPA.
Business,
It used to be CBPA.
college versus school.
Yeah, so I'm not sure the background or why makes a difference. I'm not.
I guess you'd have to be an academic.
Yeah, I know. I mean, does it sound better to be, have a degree from a college as opposed to a school of business?
I would have thought that the University of Guam is a university, so it's a school in the university, so.
That was one of the discussion topics that I recall.
I have no idea how that works.
But as I remember, it used to be called the CBPA, the College of Business and Public Admin,
Yeah.
and they changed it to the school. Okay, anyway, there were some other things.
So, that's where we stand at this point, as I was to say, and then I was discussing with Tyling about he's committed to providing one more, CPE event, before the end of the year, so. We'll probably try to do that in November, and then I think we're trying to bring Rob back in December to do the A&A, 2 days of A&A through the Guam Society.
The last 2 days of the month again.
Whatever works for him works for us, it's for
Just make sure that,
people who need the credit.
we're here.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of people take off the week of Christmas and New Year's at the ending, which is, you can have a better attendance, if
Yeah.
it's not that week, it's
Yeah.
on Sunday.
Yeah.
So the week of Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
our UI is closed, and so a lot of people take that
They go
week and they go someplace.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to try to do the 3 days before Thanksgiving, but we found that out, so. We'll probably try to do like first or second week of December, something like that.
You might get better attendance.
Yeah. And then if we have, Dr. Conrad in November, we can have him, he wants to do 2 4-hour sessions, so.
Like what he did in the summer.
Do that before Thanksgiving, sometime a week or two before Thanksgiving, maybe. I don't know, we have to see what his availability is. But anyway, I think that's good news in terms of the visiting professor program, and then, Dr. Jones has also indicated that she's, looking at ways to, advertise, the availability or need for additional visiting professors, so. That's one thing that schools in the university hasn't done previously, but.
So no plans for spring?
Yeah.
Nothing yet for visiting professor?
Did
Possibly
they say what
summer.
Dr. Conrad would teach on the full-time basis?
No, I don't know, I guess what he's teaching now.
I should probably get some of the students excited to have him.
I mean, I would
I think so.
prefer he teaches the principles and
Right.
intermediate, just,
For the building blocks.
yeah, the building blocks,
Mhm.
yeah, just,
Yeah,
just at least have that.
Just throwing it out there, I mean.
yeah.
Of course, sometimes the, maybe intermediate might be tough to teach or advance, but the building blocks is important. Maybe that's where you encourage people to take on. Whereas if you're just getting added, not to say added.
His personality is very engaging, so I think he would inspire them to want
He
to
does,
continue.
the kids
So you want
really,
somebody like him in the base classes to
Yeah.
get people interested.
Because principles A and B or fundamentals, that is where all the business students have to take it, right? And that's where they probably decide, oh, I'm never taking accounting.
Right, if you have somebody who's not interested, he
engaged,
seems kind of good at that.
he's, the kids like him, so, I mean, he's engaging, he engages them in the classroom, it's not just reading the book kind of thing.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, they seem to like him, so,
Okay, so that was the visiting professor
Alright,
update, right? Okay.
yeah. So,
Consider that a win.
On the new business,
Yeah. So we got applications.
Yeah, a lot.
Unfortunately, none from Guam. We have 4 or 5 reinstatements, people who realized that they didn't renew and we canceled them, and they said, oh my gosh, I got canceled, I need to renew.
Dave,
So, yes,
is there a Katrina Talhamet I don't know if that's the right way to say her last name, that
Say it
passed,
again.
that passed the test. I saw her yesterday and she was expecting that her name was, that her license would be approved at this meeting.
I don't know, I'd have to ask, Jessica if she's not on this list.
I thought she was approved, I mean.
Already?
No, she's, I guess, no, she's in the process. But, Jess says that, she'll be on the list for the next board meeting. They were trying to, get all her stuff together for
Okay,
the approved, so,
I think I tested her experience though.
yeah, yeah, we got that. So I guess she's due to be on the next list.
okay,
You know, they process everything in the order they get it, and then to stay in the order, to stay in line, you have to get all your stuff in, so. I'm not sure, you know, when you get whatever.
Do you remember her? Maybe not, but
Yeah, she's the one that was part of the,
See-
Center for Public Trust and Leadership Program.
We met her in,
Yeah,
I forgot where that was.
yeah.
Colorado, maybe?
Somewhere, I think Colorado, yeah, Colorado Springs meeting, the NASBA regional meeting. Yeah.
Well, she worked for us, she quit, went to BCM, quit, now she's calling.
When
Right,
where?
Melly? Is that?
she's at DOE.
Oh, DOE, okay, not,
Yeah, I'm at GWA.
or GWA, I thought she was
I
in,
think
yeah,
she's an internal audit, not an accountant.
internal.
Mm. You didn't like accounting or what?
Um,
Internal.
I don't know. She's kind of young. I think she's still sort of bouncing around, trying to figure out which,
Deciding what she wants to do.
yeah.
A
lot of them are like that.
She do an audit for you?
Yeah, she was audit.
Yeah.
These Gen Zs or whatever they're called.
Colleague, I think that's outdated already, what is it? Yeah.
Alphas or betas or,
Alphas, yes.
I have no idea.
Sounds like it.
There's a new number for it, but I don't know what it is.
Gen Z.
Yeah, there's some besides Gen Z.
Every time I say something, my kids goes, you're a boomer.
Yeah.
I tell them, no, I'm at the outside of the boomer, I'm in the Gen X range.
No, I'm the boomer.
Like the tail end of one and the
Yeah.
beginning of the other.
Yeah,
I'm at the tail end.
yeah.
Okay. So,
Anyway,
any issues of any of these?
no issues, just, you know, it's like I was saying, we have a few reinstatements, people realize, oh my God, okay.
I do have a question on the substantial equivalency that we're giving out, so do we
Yes.
check to see if they meet all our requirements before, or is it automatic as long as they have?
Well, the way substantial equivalency is working now under the mobility process is that typically we check, their license that they come in applying for. So
Okay,
as long as the license, the way the law reads and the rules and the way the, you know, overall NASBA, AICPA
Okay.
definition of mobility says, if you got a license over there, then you can use it over here, that kind of, the driver's license kind of concept. So what we do is most of them come and they're applying with their existing license in another state
Yeah, okay.
or jurisdiction. But we check to make sure that that license is valid and that it's active and there's no disciplinary actions and stuff like that. Now, if they decide that they actually want to stay here a while, then they really need to get a Guam license, which means a reciprocal license. So
okay, but their license we issue them is
as
pretty
a
much the same.
substantial equivalency
Does it say
license.
SE on it or?
Yes.
It does, okay.
Yeah, we issue a substantial equivalency license.
So,
And that way, if anything happens to their original license, if that does not get renewed, et cetera, then the SC license is gone. It
okay, I
expires
see, that's,
also.
that's the key difference here too as well.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
still need to maintain the license where they're from?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and CPE and everything else. If anything occurs that impairs their the license they applied with,
Okay,
then, that has the same effect on the SC license, so.
so if they have a license from a state that doesn't require business law, they didn't take business
Right.
law, we would
Right.
still take them in.
We still take the license and because they've fulfilled 150 hours of education,
Okay.
and, you know, in that sense. Our rules say you have to have that before you take the exam, but if under the mobility substantial equivalently, you know,
Okay.
process. They're equivalent, because they fulfill the education, even though it wasn't the same list of courses.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Yeah. But the SE license is the same as mobility. It's generally considered to be a process that allows you to do something on a temporary basis, meaning I have a Guam license and under mobility, I'm gonna go audit in, or practice in Hawaii. I can go do that tax return, et cetera, stuff, but I'm not expected to go buy a house and live there. And if I set up an office there, that's a whole different story. You should get a reciprocal license and you should, you know, get your permits and stuff like that. So that's the concept. So that's where we're starting. That's the way we're policing it.
Okay.
Anyway, we don't have any other issues with these people, so we have 82.
It's a lot. Okay, it's good.
Move to
Okay.
approve.
No. Can I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you. Approved. Move on to the next item of the agenda.
Okay, this is the first quarterly report performance, from the new exam. The NASBA hired a data analyst. And the data analyst is charged with, I guess, putting together these new reports. So these are a little different from what we used to get.
Wow.
And I haven't quite figured out exactly whether I like it or not, or whether it's telling me anything I really need to know or not. So,
Oh, we moved up in ranking.
well, but then you have to understand that they've changed the ranking stuff a little bit.
Oh, they did, okay.
Yeah, that's what bothered me about it, so.
Overall
But,
pass rate.
but, yeah, but you see they have an
Lower,
overall
we go
pass
down.
rate and a discipline pass rate, but if you look at the numbers, right? And you have percent pass, et cetera, right? I'm not sure that these individual numbers mean a whole lot. I mean, from our standpoint, you look at the percent pass rates and then the average score. Then you look at the residency in-state versus out-of-state. Most of ours are out-of-state, most of ours are international, so we have second language people, right?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So overall, nothing's really changed from what it was before.
Yeah, that's correct.
But these jurisdiction rankings now is like overall average score, discipline pass rate, core pass rate, overall pass rate. This is totally different from the rankings we had before, where you had, you know, how many, where you stood among the jurisdictions out of the 55 jurisdictions who had the most candidates or applications and who had the most, you know, test scores, stuff like that. These are pass rates. And I'm not sure how effective they are and how meaningful they are in terms of wondering how good we did or bad we did, because if you go back and look, they have a section on the third page here. It says overall performance, first time candidates for Guam. So we had the 1,200 sections and I was kind of auditing their numbers. It's kind of funny the way they put it together. And now they're trying to do cohort size trends, and this is something the data analysts would put together thinking, oh, I like to know all this statistical stuff, right? But from a KPI standpoint, most of it's meaningless, at least in my opinion. And I go back and look at the things we've been looking at, which is, you know, how many people we have enrolled, where do they come from, are they second language? You know, how well prepared are they? Do they have advanced degrees or not? And then if you take our data analyzed information here and compare it to the overall, right? Even though it looks like we had an overall pass rate, our ranking was 25, which means we're kind of in the middle, right?
yeah.
Overall core pass rate 21, we're still in the middle. Overall average score, we're still in the middle. Discipline pass rate, we're way down here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then go back and look at the average score. So the average score overall was 71. exam type, first time or renew or retake, 71.9 versus 68. And then go over and look at the exam section score, the bar ISC TCP, which is the discipline,
Yeah.
right?
Class bar, ISC, okay.
So those are the disciplines, and our average score was 69.5, 70.5.
Okay.
Everybody did good on TCP.
What is TCP?
Tax and, tax compliance and something,
But
personal.
those are really high percentages for.
Anyway.
tax.
Just look at the score though, 69.5, 70.5, so there's a 1 point difference, right? That's in Guam. Right. Now, if you look at the overall, even though we're the 45th discipline pass rate ranking way down at the bottom, right? What was the average score overall for the bar? 68.9, ours was 69.5, a half a point. You gotta go over like 5, 6 pages. The one that says 2024 Q2 overall, jurisdiction overall.
Yeah, that would be right.
So the bar score there on average score is 68.9 and ours was 69.5, half a point difference, right? Or 0.6. ISC was 75 and we were 70. TCP was 80 and we were 80. So the only thing we're lower on is the ISC. But ISC is one of the lowest and lowest discipline. It's the lowest discipline in terms of volume, right? So I'm not sure all this ranking by pass rates means very much. Frankly, I mean, if you can tell me I'm in the middle, but I only had a half a point difference between the overall average score for the entire nation, right, or world versus Guam. I mean,
But it seems if they had selected tax as their discipline, they would have done much better,
yeah, well,
right?
well,
The pass rate is so much higher for tax.
I had a meeting from 11 PM last night, 3 AM this morning with the CBT admin committee that I'm on. And they were saying that these are being looked at and the TCP section got, a higher pass rate than any other section.
Yeah.
So if you look at the core sections, and I don't have these statistics to show you because I just saw them last night in the meeting. They didn't just distribute the materials yet. But the score, information and the pass rates, if you look at the core disciplines, the pass rates basically follow exactly the same as they were previously in the old
Yeah.
exam. There's not a whole lot of difference there. And then you take out because now you've done away with BEC, but now you have bar, ISC and TCP, right?
Yeah,
Well, they're saying that a whole lot of the people that were prepared to take BEC and failed it mostly fell into the TCP category because more of the TCP content is covered and covers what used to be in BEC, right? So most of those people that took BEC at the last minute and failed it said, oh, now I need a discipline. And they went to TCP, which was the highest volume and of course had the highest pass rate. And most of those people were probably better prepared for it because they had already prepared for BEC, failed it, and then, said, gee, I gotta pass a discipline. So relative to that versus bar and ISC, now the bar pass rates fall pretty much in line. They correlate with the audit core section. So people that are taking audit and FAR, the pass rates for audit and FAR pretty well correlate to the pass rate with bar. So even though the bar pass rate and then the ISC pass rate at this point was kind of low, but it had the lowest volume of any of the disciplines for this quarter.
ISC?
So yeah,
Just a
TCP.
pretty significant decline from quarter one to quarter two.
yeah, they did have
Read that.
56-36 and 40-34.
on the whole, for the first 2 quarters, the disciplines, ISC, all of them more than either doubled or more than doubled in terms of volume. So they're beginning to get better, alignment with scores on an overall basis. So if you look at it that way, so. I'm thinking we're gonna have to have, well, I know we're gonna have to have a few more quarters of this information in order for it to make any sense, but I'm just still kind of reading these reports and trying to figure out, whether a lot of this information is anything we really need or not. And I'm hoping I can go to the annual meeting and I'll find out when I sit with Pat. And maybe I can talk to their data analyst and find out what exactly he intends to us to use these for. Because I don't see how they're all that useful overall. I mean, it's good to know a pattern.
I wonder, is there a study material out there for like, information?
All of it is, there's, you have the exam blueprint thing that the ICPA does, and then you have this, and they were saying that some of the comments they had, and this will probably be covered in the annual meeting, but, in our committee meeting last night, they were saying that some of the comments they got, they varied all over the board, but some people were like, well, I was tested on a lot of stuff that's not covered in the material I bought. The other guy says, well, that was great. Everything I read was covered on the exam. I took the exam in 75 and 76. And one of the sections I took that I passed, which was audit, the only reason I passed it was because the essay question was on the pension act that I had just finished reading. And I sat down and read the essay, the whole essay question. The one essay question was on the thing I just finished reading. So yeah, it was covered under what I read. I'm sure there's thousands of people that said, what? Where'd that come from? That kind of thing. So you have the same issue, and all the comments were just, pretty well divided between, it was great and it wasn't so great and it was okay. We didn't care, and we don't care. It was great. Who cares? So, but there is a lot of material out there. The exam, the CPE providers and the preparation people are all doing their thing, and they've all, I think for the most part, what everybody's saying is that they've done a pretty good job of covering everything. It's just, it's one of those things, you either got the good one or you got, you remembered the stuff that's there, you didn't, so. But on the whole, from what I can understand of all this stuff that he's put out, basically, we're in the same boat we've been in for the last few years. Everybody's pretty equivalent. If you go back and look on this, I think it's the last 3 pages where this chart.
Yeah, this looks familiar.
Yeah, where I put it on. So if you look at these numbers, and it basically says that we're right exactly where we were before. We're number 5 on pretty much all of it. And if you look at your average pass rate, we're right up there with the rest of them. Our average score of 71 is better than the average score of California. And California has probably 10 times the amount of advanced degree takers, test takers that we do. So, I'm looking at this one, and by this one, on a jurisdictional basis, we maintain the same rank and standing we've always had. We're like number 5 and number 6 in total candidates. And if we're a point or a half a point or a point and a half away, New York is 70.2 and we were 71 on our average score, Our average pass rate's 49%, New York was 47%.
This is pretty high for us.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I mean, Texas has more candidates, and their average pass rate's 54%, their average score is 72%. That's because they only give you 3 months for your notice to schedule. It's only good for 3 months, so if you sign up, you take the test. And basically, they require a whole lot of more education. They're very strict with all the stuff they require. They have better prepared people, obviously, but on the whole, from everything I can see, even with the new disciplines, we're standing as well as or better than we always were.
Yeah, I mean, it's, well, you know, it has a big volume, but
Yeah.
the way it looks to me is that, it may appear that tax is easier, but I think because now it's into disciplines, I
Right,
think those that are taking the tax discipline are probably those that are already in the tax profession.
well, most of them.
Most of them just taking, so it just makes it easier, whereas the bar, it's
Yeah.
very broad, I mean, it's so many topics and it's
Right.
challenging, and then so
Yeah.
that's probably why, even though there's a lot of people taking it,
Yeah.
we're not doing well.
And the same thing with ISC, I mean, the other thing is that, they're still looking at the overall, volume of scores versus the actual scores, and vetting the scores, for some like the ISC and the bar, because they just don't have enough volume yet. They were saying in the committee meeting that, the exam people, the psychometricians, they're basically saying that ultimately, when you get over that hump of the people, that were going for BEC and then didn't get it, and now most of them are in TCP, that's the main thing they're seeing. They said you give it a few more quarters, you're gonna see the TCP pass rate fall down. And it's already starting to fall, because now you're looking at people that have to prepare for TCP. They're not already
Yeah,
prepared
okay.
for content that's 90% what it used to be, but, the new ones are gonna have to prepare for it separately, so. They're
Yeah.
saying you're gonna see that ultimate pass rate fall
I mean,
down, so.
yeah.
So,
I remember you graduated from college, worked for a firm and working in tax, you're doing a lot of tax
Yeah.
returns already.
yeah.
You sit for the exam and it's specialized in tax. I think that to me, that's easier than graduating and going straight into audit and then taking bar because it's so broad.
Right, yeah.
It tests you a lot of things that you probably never encountered.
It's the same thing with ISC, and a lot of
With
people,
ISC, yeah.
a lot of people don't even know what
Yeah.
ISC is, so.
Yeah, I don't even know what it
it's gonna
stands
take a little time take a little time to build it up. But from everything I can see, we stand just as well off or better off than we did before.
Yeah, we should frame this.
Yeah.
I mean, usually we're like, what, 45, 48, 50.
bragging rights for.
No, I mean,
That's way higher than California.
25, 24, 21.
Yeah, well, just, it is what it is, guys, but, yeah, what
And then
can I say?
45 in the discipline, it's just, it's.
I mean, you can
Odd.
spend a couple of hours going through the data analytic reports. Tell me if you really care about what this cohort did, about what the last cohort did. As long as we're passing people as good as or better than most of the other jurisdictions, and they keep coming, I think we're okay.
Okay,
Not sure that, I'm not sure my KPIs are in this report, but go ahead, Tom.
The average age, it went down too, right? Used to be,
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Used to be in the 30s, but now
30s
it's in the
what I recall.
28s.
right, so it's now about 28, 29.
Yeah, yeah. But it's,
I have a
So we're
question, does
getting
a
younger
prospective,
candidates.
does a candidate, see the, jurisdiction pass rates? I mean, they say, hey, Guam's, they don't have access to that. Okay,
well, they see their information.
yeah,
And then they get there's an overall, score summary thing that you get as a candidate that tells
yeah,
you how well you did against the whole of everybody,
Right.
but, and it kind of gives you, it's designed supposedly to give you a focus of how well you did here and there, so that you know what you didn't do good
Mhm.
on, you have,
Yeah.
know what to prepare for, better prepare for,
uh-huh,
that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, but they don't see any of this kind of information.
Okay. So go to next one, quarterly communication.
Yeah, it's the communications thing, so you can skip over that email thing and just go to I'm on this one.
Okay,
The, highlight of the board director meeting, July 19th. So I thought it was interesting that operations outperformed budget by 4.6 million, revenue exceeded budget due to volume increases. And net assets projected to increase 9.7 million for the fiscal year ending July 31st, 24. That's NASBA.
sorry, Dave, when you say operations, that's the expense, their costs? Outperform budget by 4.6, what do you mean by operations? Revenues or expenses?
NASBA operations, I think I think it's a net. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, basically what they're saying is that, I think that overall they earned 4.6 million, or they're 4.6 million better off than they planned to be. I don't know how much they plan to lose.
Okay,
But due to volume increases, so they're seeing the same continued, application volume that we're seeing where we thought that it was gonna taper off, right? And it hasn't, it just keeps going, so. But basically NASBA's, making money for the year, right?
yeah,
So,
they live in scholarship.
yeah, well, that's why I was ragging on this.
You-
I was giving them a little headache about that. Like, why are you complaining, you know? Aren't we supposed to be member focused, mission driven, member focused? That was always Ken's slogan, right?
And it's ironic because,
Yeah.
I was gonna say not John Johnson, who's the new
Dan.
Dan Dustin, that was his,
Mhm.
that was his role.
Mhm. Yeah, so anyway, I emailed Dan and I think, Tom, I mean, Tom is Tom, but he has his domain, but he can only
Yeah.
do what they let him do, right? So like I said, when I'm asking, he's like, well, I said, well, I'll just email Dan. He's like, yeah, do that, because, he has to wait for Dan to tell him it's okay to do it, so.
Also, you got a little bit of pushback on the,
Yeah, so I emailed Dan, I said, Dan, this is da. He said, well, I said, haven't we paid for some of your trips? I said, you never paid for one of my trips, it's included in my contract, so you don't pay for my trip at all, you pay for all these other executive directors, but no, you don't pay for mine. So, I think he needed enlightening.
so
I
how
guess
many,
Ken
how
didn't
many
bother,
scholarships were you able to?
Ken
to get?
didn't bother to tell him,
Yeah.
how we deal with it, so, we got the two,
Okay,
but,
Technically,
but technically, we're only supposed to have one,
yeah,
and, for each meeting, right? But we've had two, and we get, every now and then we get a second one, or sometimes we get a third one. Ken was like, just do it, to Tom, but, Dan, being new and not privy to
history.
our history, and the stuff.
so it's myself and Tom,
You and Tommy, yeah.
and are you gonna be attending?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Okay,
We pay for it.
Yeah, I get you a seat. Mine's all included in the contract, so
I
it's,
see.
it's all paid for. Well, it's budgeted and then I have to stay within the budget, so. Any excess, I just charge the STG anyway, so. Okay, so the executive directors committee, this was in the last, board meetings, update on activities. I put this here, they're talking about discussion pertaining to licensure models, substantial equivalency and mobility, private equity investment in public accounting firms, and the interest in developing a Uniform Accountancy Act provision for ESOP, minority ownership of public accounting firms. In addition, he discussed the desire to update the ALD accountancy licensing database to include the national candidate ID number as a CPA identifier. Putting in the national candidate ID number is not a big deal. I think we either have it or they have it for all of our applicants, so. They want to use that so that they can, put it into the database, and then we get, score transfer applications from people all the time. We get 50, 60 of them a year that have taken the exam under one of the other jurisdictions and they've finished the exam, they want to transfer their scores to us to get licensed, like New Hampshire, because now they can't get licensed.
I saw a lot of this substantial equivalency for New Hampshire.
Yeah, so they want to put the candidate ID in the database so they can actually use that to track them and then, relate it to the scores, their scores, so it's easier for them to give us the data we need, the boards need to do the score transfers and stuff, so that's not a big deal. I put this here, the employee stock ownership, minority ownership issue, and there are several jurisdictions now in the states that are having issues with the private equity investments in the public accounting firms. I guess you probably know a little bit about that. And there's a couple of jurisdictions that actually say, well, you know, it's okay with us if somebody wants to create an ESOP and have the firm owned by employees. But again, they're saying that, this is saying it has to be minority ownership. Our rule says that, you know, CPA firms have to be owned by a majority of CPAs. You can have non-CPA owners, but they can't be a majority. And that's the issue they have with some of the private investment firms, these, private investment that they want to just buy the equity and be the equity investor and own the firm. Put up all the money, but they can't do that in many places because of the way the law is written. So there's some issues with a couple of places. There's a couple of jurisdictions where the firms have been bought by non-CPAs that are trying to figure out how to make the thing work with the ownership against the rules. So there's probably gonna be something eventually coming down about the relative to changing the UAA stuff. And that's probably one of the things we're gonna hear about at the annual meeting. The ESOP thing to me is not a real problem, relative to, you know, employee ownership, as long as it stays minority, non-CPA minority owners, right? The question though is how do you control that, and then there's two jurisdictions that have already done it. And I think Alabama might have been one of them that Boyd is on, and done it several years ago, so they actually have some of that. And so what the discussion in the executive director meeting was, can we get some language in the UAA that tells us how to do it on a basis that, you know, nobody will argue with, you know, that kind of thing. So we're probably gonna see some of that happening too in the near future.
But you know, what's interesting is, I think it could be a problem for audit firms. So if you're
Yeah.
a firm that just deals mainly in tax and consulting, then it's not
It's not
probably
a
not an
big
issue
deal.
of
Yeah.
employee stock option, employee zoning, but if you perform audits
Yeah.
and you have another 60 people having ownership in your firm,
Yeah.
what does it do to independence? And then does the,
And that's the question, I guess, relative to minority ownership and how much is minority owner? I
Yeah.
mean, are they individual minority owners?
oh yeah,
You know, versus, you know, the whole plan being the minority owner, which might not be such a minority, right?
yeah, you never know. I mean,
Yeah, well, the one thing that, one jurisdiction, I can't remember which one, was saying that they had a firm that was bought by a private equity firm. And it's like a regional firm or something. And they did the breakup thing where they tried to take all of the, you know, non-attest services and put it in here.
Yeah.
And then put the test services over here, and they were still having some issues with how they segregated the ownership, so. I'm not sure how that's gonna work out, but, they were in the process. So, but it seems to be becoming more of an issue in the States with, you know, what is it they say, you know, the tide rises and falls, you know, we're gonna merge and then we're gonna merge and we're gonna merge, and so there's back to this wave of private equity investment because accounting firms make money, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah. the hard way.
Anyway, we're gonna hear a lot more about it in the future, so. President Bishop reported there was activity in the current year, continues to work with the AICP on key issues, and it's been a good year financially. Provided an update on the AICPA NASBA Summit.
Is that his last meeting?
Yeah, this was his last meeting, so
The
his contract
regional.
was up in August. Ken's contract was up, so Dan took over, September
September
first.
first, wow, okay.
So we provided an update on the AICPA NASBA Summit, begin efforts to get consensus on key issues. Colleen is participating in the American Accounting Association meeting and the creation of work groups. Questions being considered is why is accounting program enrollment going up? Cause nobody has any money and everybody needs to figure out how to use it better. Hello. Why are students deciding to go into accounting and what are the reasons people are going back into accounting? It's kind of funny, if you look at over the years, every time the economy starts to get tight, people start to go back to accounting. Okay. They also reported on the importance of international relevance, the merger of CPA Ireland and Chartered Accountants Ireland, and they're still working toward a mutual recognition agreement with the ICAEW, which I think is probably gonna find out that just died on the vine. I don't think they're doing that. Colleen reported the 20th anniversary of computer-based testing occurred on April 5th. And that 4.3 million exam sections were given since the launch in 2004. They reported 26,000 sections were administered during the first quarter of calendar 24. Approximately 1,800 discipline sections were administered. The breakdown was among disciplines was 40% bar, 39% TCP, and 21% ISC. First score releases occurred earlier in the week, meaning the second week of July. And the score releases for the core sections of the exam will occur on June the 4th. I guess this was an earlier meeting. The date was
David, is accounting enrollment really going up in the US?
It is, apparently it is. Oh, this was the April meeting. Yeah. How much, I don't know, but they say it's going up. I haven't seen any numbers, so. Excuse me. 51 jurisdictions voted to move to a 30-month conditional credit window. Excuse me, and 3 moved to a 36-month window.
Wow, okay.
So 41 jurisdictions have changed the calculation of conditional credit to the date of score release. We were one of the, we are one of the 51 and one of the 41. So we went to 30 months and we went to the score release date. Because NASBA can easily track the score release date. Okay. Flip over a couple of pages. This way it says the total revenue was better than budget by 4.2 million. Primarily due to increased candidate volume driven by the January 24 exam change. Better than expected volume during the first part of fiscal 24, leading to the launch of CPA Evolution is expected to help carry positive financial results through the end of the year, despite lower expected candidate volume than budgeted during the remaining 5 months. They also stated total expenses were 1 million less than budget through the first 7 months of the year and are projected to continue to have a positive variance to budget for the full fiscal year. The next IT projects on the horizon are data and reporting project, which includes the candidate performance books. And that's why they hired the data analysts to do the performance books. We're gonna start getting them again. We used to get them, right? It used to tell you all the performance by candidates, like by all schools and all kinds of stuff. So we haven't gotten those for the last couple of years. We're gonna start getting them again. And the implementation of software tools take advantage of artificial intelligence. That's great. Credit cards and other service costs were greater than budget due to higher than budgeted exam volume. which is good. And then they had investment income of 3 million through the first 7 months, which was 1.5 million better than budget. So I don't know why they're complaining about an aircraft. I would give Dan a hard time for the next 6 months, and then he won't forget. Anyway, that's just basic update. Now this, excuse me, next section, the ICP and NASDAQ seek input on proposed additional pathway to CPA licensure. Putting this in here, this is kind of the announcement thing, the one, and then, you know, this announcement page here, and then the write-up, and then this is the exposure draft thing, this stuff, right? It's what they're talking about. I put this in here just for informational purposes. We can go through it. We've discussed it before, and this is what's in the exposure draft to talk about this competency program. So they're saying they want a competency-based pathway that basically is to be ultimately considered the same as the current pathway with 150 hours and a year of experience. So they want competency-based experience to take the place of college degrees, et cetera, that kind of thing. That's what they're saying. That's the concept. How well that's gonna work out, I have no idea. I don't know if we want to actually go through the process of, or if the board wants to make any statement in terms of what we think or don't think about the exposure draft.
Well, in that regional meeting, I just said what you said, that we haven't thought about it yet, in our opinion, but yeah, I didn't read it in detail, but I think whatever helps us to get people meet the requirements, that's good. And so EY, we just signed up with that ELE.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's $150 per credit.
Yeah.
The fall just ended, so they're starting in spring.
Yeah.
The registration is going to open for spring, starting, I think, October and November. So it seems positive, and so I'm getting some interest from my staff.
Yeah, I got the CBT committee last night, this morning, or whatever. They were talking about the ELE, and the update was that it seems to be working good from the candidate perspective. They had even more people signing up. They're doing it through Tulane and in Tennessee, of course, and I don't know if you know, but the lady that was executive director for the Tennessee board, Wendy Garvin, has been appointed to be, she's taken a position with NASBA to do something like the executive. I think she's going to be like the EVP, something like that.
Okay.
That's either announced or it's going to be announced.
I thought I saw that a couple.
Yeah, there was an email about it or something.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy's, I mean, she's very good at what she does. She's been really good with the Tennessee board. Before that, she was with the Florida Institute of CPAs for a while, and then she was with the, not sure if it was the Tennessee Society or one of the other societies for quite a while. So she's very good at doing what she does in terms of running things and, you know, the compliance issues and things like that. So, she was the one that was saying that they're looking at this thing, and one of the issues overall is if we want to go to a competency-based system, then how do we determine, or who determines what's competent?
Yeah, that's the.
You know, that was the crux of the issue we had at the regional meeting, was the way they were proposing competency was, I mean, it's all fine and good to say we want a competency pathway, meaning we just want to prove that you're competent, but how do you do that, and who's certified to say you are or aren't?
How do you make it consistent among different companies?
Exactly, that was the whole thing. So, but Wendy was saying with the ELE, She worked, with the Tennessee board and with Tulane and with NASBA. And they evaluated all the courses that are being given under the ELE, cause it's through Tulane.
Yes.
And, they have set up a process where they monitor the content of the course. With, whoever's giving it or whatever,
Yeah.
through the university, and then, they keep track of it, so, of any changes and stuff, so it seems like they're getting a pretty good handle on how to do the ELE part. And they're getting more people
Yeah.
signed up for it, and she says she was very confident in when Tulane puts credit on their transcript for the ELE course, that you're actually getting reasonable, you know, it's a reasonable thing.
It's good courses,
They're able to evaluate it and keep track of it and make sure that it's actually,
Now, does that just give you the 30 hours or does it give you a MAC degree?
no, it doesn't give you any
It's
degree,
credits.
it just
Just
gives you
credits.
additional credit hours at a reasonable rate. And
Uh-huh.
supposedly it's provided during your workday by your employer,
Yeah,
or it's subsidized by your employer, so.
you could have it subsidized.
Yeah, could be, it could be, yeah. Now, they're talking about, adding other universities onto the, there's 2 or 3 others already that are in the process of working to participate. So maybe that's something we wanna get the
It's-
University of Guam to do if they can. I don't know.
Yeah, because, you know, it's $150 per credit, which is $450 per course, which is, from what I understand, much cheaper than UOG.
Right, the MAC, well, yeah, because the MAC program is, $10,000 for 30 hours, which means you're, you know, I don't know what you're paying, 300
Yeah,
an
so-
hour or something like that, you know.
So
So,
it's double, it's half the
Yeah.
price, so.
yeah, and that's why they say, quote unquote, subsidized by employer. But I don't know how much you want
Plus,
to pay.
plus the Tulane, I think it's all online, there's no live according to
Yeah,
the person there. And they can take it, I guess, on their own time, but it has, you know, there's a deadline, but there's on their own
right,
time.
but supposedly you're given time to work on it during work hours.
Yeah, so that's, you know, when the company signs up, you have to, acknowledge that will support the participant by providing the time for them to take the class or study, yeah, so.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, I can talk to Wendy in the next, you know, the annual meeting, I can talk to her and ask her if, what's involved with getting the university to sign up. Yeah, could be a good thing, we'll see, I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd put it in here.
We'll see, I mean, so we might have, at least at EY, have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 participate in spring. But it's busy season, we'll see, but, so they're excited,
Anything to make more CPAs, that's what we need.
yeah.
But at a reasonable cost.
They're, you know, that ELA organization, they're very, helpful.
Right.
The only thing is that when I wanted to meet with them, they said 5:30 Guam time morning.
Yeah, all right.
And it was okay for me to 5:30, because it was a 30-minute call,
Yeah.
and at 6 AM was the
The
regional
other one,
meeting.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
it was the
you're
same day, I was
okay,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I'll just go ahead and wake up
Yeah.
earlier.
Okay, so anyway, it's there. If we've got until December, if we decide as a board, we wanna make comments to the exposure draft, I'm not sure if we do or don't. Or if it would make any difference anyway.
Okay.
It might help to see a little bit more, hear a little bit more about what they actually intend to do in Jersey. But this next thing I had here was this, firm ownership, knowing your statute and rules is one of the, agenda items on the executive director call. And, what came up with this is it's come up in the past a couple of times, but I put these 2 rules here because the debated issue was what happens when you have a sole proprietor, who has clients and he's working, young or old, but you know, it's basically, been created and pushed as an issue because there's been some older guys who had, sole proprietors that still had, you know, 15, 20 clients that they'd been doing forever and they pass away. And and there's no provision in the law for who can take over or who can access the documents. And, you know, like they had this one from, this is the example they always used, was the lady, the wife of the sole practitioner in Washington State. The guy died. She buried him, when she was ready to clean out his office, she just took all of the file cabinets and put them out on the street corner for the trash people to pick up. And left them sitting
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And some guy drove by and said, what the hell, and looked in the thing and found all the tax folders for all the people he'd been serving for years. And then somebody filed a complaint and they went ballistic over.
Well, who are they gonna sue? I mean, they're
The guy's dead,
gonna.
you know. But, you know, when it came to the board at the time said, we don't know, we don't have a rule.
Well, who owns the files?
Well, that's the thing, well, the state owns the files,
The state, or we,
but you're supposed to take proper, you know, whatever. Anyway, that's why I thought, this last discussion, when it came up again, these were the two rules. Kansas sent in their rule, they have a rule in their law, or not law, but in their rules. So Kansas's rule was relative to emergency assistance. Certified public accountant holding a current permit to practice in the state may, upon notification to the board, provide services leading to the disposition of a deceased CPA's practice. In the case of a disabled or incapacitated CPA, such services upon notification to the board may be provided for the continuance of a practice. These services may be provided for a period of up to 6 months. The board may, at its discretion, grant additional period. The reason they're saying this is because, you know, like, right, if you're operating a CPA firm, you had to have a permit. If
okay,
the guy dies and, you know, the wife wants his friend to take over, but somebody, you don't have a permit to run that firm, so how you gonna go through the process and, you know, be
Okay.
sure you're legal, right? That's what this is focused on.
I'm curious, how do they sign the returns and
Well,
under what name? Is this the
I
firm
don't
name?
know, but that's what they're saying. The board is actually authorized to say, okay, you don't have a permit, but you can run that firm. You know.
The license continues, it
Get it
doesn't
straightened,
terminate.
get it straightened out, right? That's what the Kansas rule is about.
Interesting.
Texas went a little farther, as they always do, because they got a staff of 139 people in Texas, so. You know, so they say, starts out upon written authorization from the executive director, a firm with only one CPA owner may continue to operate for a period of up to 15 months following the death or incapacitation of the sole CPA owner. The executive director, subject to ratification at the next board meeting, may permit the continued operation of the firm when he has been provided with, and this is like the one ABC list. In the event of death, a certified copy of the death certificate, a copy of the power of attorney from the sole owner's executor, to the Texas CPA in good standing with the authority and intention to manage, you know, written evidence, that, all this stuff, you know. Or an affidavit from the sole CPA owner's physician stating that the sole CPA owner is, you know, essentially incapacitated. That kind of thing. So theirs is a little more detailed in terms of written documentation requirements and legality, legal, you know, legalese. But I just thought, well, it's been coming up for the last few years, and every now and then it happens. And I know we've had a couple of guys that died. I have no idea what they did with their stuff, you know, before or whatever.
Yeah.
But we also have a few more older CPAs, you know.
Well, a lot more.
There's a few that
They're
are
old.
getting up there. I mean, there's a few that are over 80, so I was thinking that this is something that I would
That's more
consider
relevant for us. Yeah.
drafting something at least to
Okay.
put in our, because I'm doing the rules and stuff.
Okay,
I'll be drafting something relative to something like this, that at least provides an emergency provisions, or somebody could take over a firm that would really need a permit, but wouldn't have one, you know, immediately.
but it's designating both of them a CPA.
Right, has to be a CPA.
I mean, but not just an individual as opposed to.
Well, it could be a CPA or a firm,
Right, okay.
but the issue is, you know, if I'm the sole proprietor and I have a firm, meaning I have a firm permit, right? And then I'm run over by the truck tomorrow, you need a permit to operate my firm, right? And you don't have one, so how are you going to legally come in and take over? And, you know, there's privacy concerns and all that crap, so.
There's also sort of a presumption that someone's interested in taking over.
Right, that.
What if no one is interested?
Well, then,
What does the board do?
the board would try to find somebody to
Yeah.
at least,
So we would have to initiate some sort of,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, do we have to? I mean, we're
No, we
required
don't have
don't,
to,
right?
there's no requirement to, but I would think that, you know, I think the issue would go like this. I mean, I get run over by the truck. I mean, my wife knows that I'm running a CPA firm and I got clients and she has no idea how or who to deal with it. She's gonna come and say, what do I do, you know, to somebody?
Someone else.
And, that means, I mean, obviously she's gonna find somebody that's gonna be at least willing to do some work, you know, to help out, even if they're compensated or whatever, so. But the board's gonna have to give approval for that person to operate that firm
Yeah.
without that firm, because you don't have a permit to run that firm, right? And the law says you have to have a permit if you're running a firm and stuff like that, so.
But there could be a scenario where the spouse just says, well, I'm just gonna take these records and dump them, right?
No, we don't have to
Yeah.
do anything, right? I mean, we're not required to.
No, there's no requirement,
Or anything,
but,
right, okay.
but there are some jurisdictions that have been debating including a requirement, in the rules or in the law that says if you are a sole practitioner, you must prepare for, or you must designate somebody to,
Yeah.
you know, handling, you know, like appointing an agent, I guess, to handle something.
Yeah,
Or,
okay.
you know, or maybe we just say that, as a permitted licensed sole proprietor, you automatically appoint the board as your agent in the event you're incapacitated, et cetera, and have no ability to, you know, decide anything, so that at least the board's given the authority to appoint somebody.
I mean,
I think that makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you apply for a license, I mean, from the beginning, you know, we have that.
If you wanna,
ability.
yeah, if you wanna run a
Okay.
firm, you know, if you're gonna be a sole proprietor.
Yeah, young or old, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So as soon as they have it, right?
because if, yeah, I'd have to ask the lawyer about how to do that, but if you automatically are appointing the board as your agent in the event you're incapacitated or death or then at least the board has the authority to go find somebody to take care of these clients. You know, even if they have to find somebody that, you know, needs to get paid to take over or whatever, they can stipulate whatever the compensation is.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the protection of the public, right?
It's kind of like the same way when you go file bankruptcy, the judge appoints somebody to hand as your, what do they call the guy that handles bankruptcy?
Trustee.
The trustee.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that kind of thing, and then the trustee, and he gets paid, you know, out of whatever the assets are, you know. Bankrupt, he is.
But it has to be a CPA, right? So if you're not a
Yeah.
CPA.
No, it has to be a CPA,
Okay.
but anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up, so it's something we've never really considered, but something I'm gonna try to figure out how to write into the rules.
Okay, that sounds good. I think that sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Then the last thing is just the financial statement. So, I mean, we're still doing okay. Applications are still coming in, so you can see that, as of August, we still have one more month to go, so maybe throw another 120,000 on there, so even just say our exam application fees are gonna be 250, that's more than double what we thought it would be. I really thought that the volume would decrease because of the fact they have to wait for the scores. But the other thing that's been said is that the volume seems to have kicked up enough that, they were able to validate most of the scores, in terms of the new exams, so. They're able to release scores sooner also, so they're thinking, in that sense, I guess that's part of the reason that the application volume just continues to grow. But I am surprised that we just continued, and the applications didn't really ever decrease. Test center fees, they are what they are. It's not gonna get any better unless we get seats from China, I guess, so. Cause now all the Koreans go to test in Korea, so. But otherwise, we were fine with budget and our expenses are down as always, so under control, so we have a 432 excess. And I have to ask about how much we can contribute. I'm thinking.
Are we trying to do it before?
Yeah, we want to
September
do
30?
it before year end,
Okay.
yeah, so. I have to ask the lawyer, but I'm thinking that from the authorizations we had in the past, that we should be able to contribute at least to 250.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, so that's where we are.
So is that, just confirm, that's okay with all the board members, right, 250?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the plan.
Motion. Do you need a motion?
Do we need a motion?
Not at this point, no.
No.
I think we're okay. I think we had one last time. Yeah, okay. So that's kind of where we are. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Did the budget
No.
for next year, is it pretty much a duplicate of this year's budget?
Yes. I can't remember if the amount might have changed a little bit, but not much, but it's, again, though, I mean, the one thing I think to understand is it's a lump sum budget. And it's a lump sum budget for expenditures, so, that's kind of where we stand.
Well, how's that work? Because we have revenue, so net expenditures is zero.
They don't budget our revenues.
They don't budget their revenues.
No, we do, but they don't.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
But we're a special revenue fund, so. They just budget, they appropriate a lump sum amount to handle our expenses.
But it never eats up into the government budget, right? So, okay.
We've never had any government money.
That's why there's no real concern.
Yeah, well, that and the fact that we're kind of small, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. At least from their budget standpoint, we're kind of small. Not much in 2 billion. So. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay.
But, leaving, October 16th, for the AICPA, fall council meeting, and then 3 days later is the NASBR, annual meeting.
When are you guys leaving?
I believe on the 15th.
Early.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll be back sometime in November, but before the November meeting, we can have the October meeting when I'm off island if you want, or we can waive it,
Yeah, we'll see.
considering that, the two of you plus me, that there would be 3 of us off island in October.
I might try and leave also.
Vacation time?
Yeah, I try.
Okay, maybe we can just postpone the October
Yeah,
meeting, move it to November.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. I mean, October 15 is a busy deadline for
Yeah, it
us.
is, yeah, for
And then
everyone.
after that, a lot of us. will
It
try
is
to
for
leave.
me too, I have to do my
My
tax.
tax return.
Okay,
Okay, anybody have any other questions? I'm good.
okay. So if there's nothing, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second.
Seconded by Francis. Thank you. Meeting
Thank you,
adjourned.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a safe drive. Have a safe drive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
I leave tomorrow to Japan. You need anything?
How long are you gonna be there?
Yes, I come back Tuesday night,
Oh,
Tuesday afternoon.
just a meeting or
No, I'm
just kids?
gonna try and get away.
Just you and Arlene?
Yeah, we'll see if I can, we'll see if I can. It's the weekend, so maybe I can completely,
I think I
leave
changed,
everything on the hotel.
I think I
Saturday,
changed my
Sunday.
Uber account, so your card is no